Hello folks, Typhon Carter here, and I bring to you another Jirachee's DPP Invitational. This is a round 1 matchup between McMeghan and Pideous. Quick disclaimer, this tournament took place when Frostlass and Machamp were still legal, and Baton Pass was not unbanned yet. That being said though, let's jump right into this. Tyranitar lead, Zapdos lead. This usually indicates Scarf T-Tar lead on McMeghan's end, which it is, given that it outsped the Zapdos. Heatran is brought in here, and the Heatran will get rocks up, but this Latias is looking to be some kind of defensive Latias. Pideous immediately explodes and does a significant amount of damage to the Lati, and Infernape will be the follow-up. And the Infernape was brought in there to kill the Latias, mostly because most defensive Latias only run 280 speed. They do not run full speed, so that is why Pideous felt comfortable making that move. Breloom was brought in as a follow-up, but had to pivot back out to Zapdos to deal with the Jirachee. And Nidoqueen is shown, so McMeghan bringing a Toxic Spike stall from the looks of it. And the Zapdos will let an HP Ice rip, and the Nidoqueen will get one layer of Toxic Spikes up, and it will protect here, trying to, get some extra healing from Black Sludge. However, immediately has to switch out to the Clefable as the Zapdos answer, and Clefable will be able to get a free knockoff, but Breloom is a pretty free entry here. McMeghan knows this and is able to get the Seismic Toss off, deals a sizable amount of damage. Nidoqueen is brought out, presumably to be the Sleep Sack, which the Breloom will get the sleep off. And this Breloom still looks pretty threatening, all things considered, given the Latias was the primary answer. And Breloom's going to let Focus Punch rip. No wake up. And there's a real chance for McMeghan to wake up just about any day, but doesn't want to take that chance, and will go to the Skarmory. Skarmory will threaten a Brave Bird into this Breloom, but McMeghan knows that Pideous won't risk that, so opts to just get the spikes up instead. Getting those extra layers of spikes up is going to be pretty helpful in this matchup for McMeghan, especially for wearing down Breloom, which usually is a problematic matchup for stall. And it is shown to be double fight move Breloom, which is actually a very good lure. This tells us that he probably lacks Mach Punch from the looks of it, which probably makes sense given that Pideous has a Infernape to support it. Jirachee calls out the Focus Punch attempt with a Body Slam, but the Zapdos will get free entry here. Infernape isn't being brought in because of the Toxic Spikes, the one layer being present on the field, and the Infernape showing Life Orb earlier, so maybe Pideous has a Healing Wish Pokemon such as Scarf Latias in the back. We do not know for sure. Skarmory is going to be sacrificed here. And the Clefable is going to have free entry here. And a Latias on Pideous' end is in fact shown. Nidoqueen is brought out here, and the Latias will get the Healing Wish off. And Infernape is now completely healthy and is in a prime position to close this game out. However, Infernape here risking a Poison Point proc, so Pideous has to be pretty careful here. Nidoqueen wakes up here, protects. Maybe this Infernape has Overheat, which is why Pideous is okay just clicking. And yeah, there's the Poison Point proc, but yeah, maybe it has Overheat, which explains why Pideous kept close combating. And Mach Punch is shown. And for McMeghan, it is a McMeghan should be able to stall this out with one Protect. but the Infernape is going to die to hazards no matter what, given it was at 16%. And McMeghan is now trying to play for Ironhead flinches, which, where he's at right now, he just needs one more, maybe two more. Actually, yeah, it was two more. One more, does he get it? Yes, he does. Going to get the body slam off, just trying to preserve that Ironhead PP. And the Tyranitar is shown to be last, and Pideous will most likely lose here. Almost certainly. And the Tyranitar is going to go down, and the Infernape dies to hazard damage. And McMeghan will survive this late game comeback attempt by Pideous. And he was able to hold off the double fighter assault from Pideous alongside the double fire, but that being said though, let's jump into game 2. Here we go. Hippowdon lead, Tyranitar lead. McMeghan maybe bring a stall again, and the Skarmory early on certainly tells us this is the case, so we could be looking at a stall mirror here. And these Skarmories are trading spikes up all day every day. This tells us that, yeah, they both have a Clefable, which is immune to hazards. And we got some Clefable on Clefable action. McMeghan bringing out Stealth Rock's Clefable. Not the most common move choice on Clefable, but it's a viable one nonetheless. McMeghan gets the Whirlwind off, but Pideous was able to get a T-Wave off before being phased out, and the Skarmory is going to be brought in. Tries to get a Rapid Spin off, but that is going to be blocked all day, every day. And McMeghan pivots back out to his own Clefable. And is able to get the knockoff off, but that tells us that McMeghan's Clefable does not have T-Wave, most likely. McMeghan's Gliscor showing, you know, taunt, and it's gonna get knocked off. Skarm's gonna be pivoted in as the Gliscor check, and taunts here, but doesn't really want to stay in. Tyranitar is brought in here and eats a Hydro Pump, but McMeghan's Tyranitar is going to get a free pursuit trap off, given that on these stall teams you usually want Scarf Tyranitar, mostly because Gengar would be a huge problem otherwise, which is another Pokemon that stall famously does not love facing. Drillpex here does a decent amount of damage. 17%, and the Gliscor here showing wing attack. So again, on these stall structures, wing attack on Gliscor is not uncommon because of the fact that you want to be able to deal with Breloom specifically. And the Tyranitar is going to go down. Clefable is brought in as the Clefable answer. Soft Boils here, and McMeghan throwing a Stealth Rock here, so McMeghan pretty early on realizing that he's going to have to engage in a PP stall war, given that this is a stall mirror and it is a 5-5 game. T-Waves here doesn't really matter because you can't be full parrot. The only thing that would matter is speed. And yeah, so Pideous' Clefable is shown to be Knockoff Seismic Toss, T-Wave, and Soft Boil. Whereas McMeghan's is Knock Seismic Toss, Stealth Rock, and Soft Boil. But a couple other viable move options on Clefable on these stally teams could be something like Encore, for example, could be very helpful in the Clefable mirror. And yeah, we got a Yeah, this is basically a game of chicken right now because neither player really wants to waste valuable PP on whether it is knockoff or seismic toss, especially seismic toss. And Stealth Rock's just being thrown out here because McMeghan knows that, hey look, I don't exactly have a great way to handle this. So laming it out is the next best thing for Roro. Pideous, same deal. It's like the T-Wave in this matchup is not nearly as valuable as it could be otherwise. And yeah, we're gonna be here for a while, so I'm gonna speed this up for a little bit. As for what Pideous's last could be, I imagine Jirachee, Latias, almost a defensive Latias almost certainly has to be in the back. If it's not some kind of Latias, Pideous finally switches out in the mirror and goes to Hippowdon, and Pideous trying to, fish for an EQ crit, but Skarm's going to roost up here, roars it out. Okay, yeah, that's where T-Wave can come in handy, especially in speed ties regarding Roar. This is not GSC where the faster Pokemon will, lose out. And, okay, not quite a defensive Latias, but it is a Calm Mind Lati. It's most likely max HP with CM, HP Fire, Dragon Pulse, and Recover. So for Pideous, that's going to be the main win condition here. For McMeghan, this is... I'm not exactly sure what his prime win con really is besides, waiting it out. We're playing the PP Stall War. I guess the Gliscor can be a win condition as well. But it's gotta be pretty annoying, especially because the Skarmory is using Brave Bird. Or, sorry, Drill Peck, but not Brave Bird. So it's going to be a very long process. As you can see, McMeghan is just slowly wearing this Pokemon down, but not to mention the Latias is still a present threat that can serve as a win con for Pideous. The Fable is going to be sent in here. Skarm's just trying to stall out these seismic tosses. But yeah, we're kind of in no man's land, and this is more about micromanagement at this point, especially in these stall mirrors. You always have to be very mindful of, like, you have to make sure your pokes are all in relatively pristine conditions and you're managing your resources correctly, whether that requires you switching around, switch stalling. You can't really switch stall nearly as effectively in this gen. At least because Regenerator isn't really a thing yet, so... I think in DPP, stall mirrors are a little bit more interesting in that regard. But these Clefable mirrors are not really fun, gotta admit. Yeah, we are in it for the long haul here, and I applaud anybody who has stuck around with me until this point. And remember, Pideous is down, and McMeghan is still up, so McMeghan doesn't have pressure to immediately win this, but you want to ideally close this out, because you don't know what's going to happen in a game 3. Rotom rests here and gets knocked off. I think that could be an error for McMeghan that he may regret later, letting the Rotom eat the knockoff, but... Anyways, yeah, so the last is revealed to be Jirachee, and the Jirachee is going to get instantly Will-O-Wisp here. But it is shown to be Rest Jirachee, so this is Rest Talk Jira. This is another alternative way to deal with sleep, especially on stall teams, because the Jira effectively acts as a sleep absorber against Breloom. Like, you can comfortably send it out, and then you can still be a threat with Sleep Talk. That's kind of the general idea of using Rest Talk Jirachee. To be honest, it is, in most situations, a pretty iffy set, but it does have its places, such as on this stall team where if you look at Pideous' structure, Pideous does not have a great way to actually deal with Breloom. So that's where the Jirachee could come in handy with Rest Talk. Iron Heads here, trying to root force past the Skarmory. Skarm is going to get a roost up. And yeah, Pideous has to be careful about going for broke with these Iron Head flinches, because if Skarm even gets a roost off, that's another 6 or 7 Iron Head flinches that you're going to have to string together. And yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Pideous sees this and is going to pivot out to Skarmory, gets whirlwinded out, is met with a Latias though. McMeghan probably tried to, and yeah, HP fire, there it is. It tries to counter. That does not work out. The idea of countering on the hidden power, this is not ADV McMeghan. But yeah, the idea of counter Skarm is that you use it to try to get around a DD Tyranitar with Fire Punch. You use it to try to get around Gyarados. Things like that. It only really works as a one-use attempt, because if you show it and say they set up it on you again, then like it is not going to work out. It will falter against DD spam, especially if they have DD Gyro, for example. That's where you know, Skarmory with counter might fall short, but there are situations where it could be quite useful. That was not one of those situations, so it is shown to be a bit of a do-nothing Skarm, unfortunately. And yeah, because of this, Pideous knows that, you know, if there's a Breloom or something like that, it'd be pretty awkward, but it can be nice as like a one-use counter to, like, say a Focus Punch, like if you know it's coming. Yeah, and that's also why it did so why it took so much from HP Fire. It's because of the fact that it's physically defensive. That's the only way you can really pull it off. And yeah, this is looking pretty rough for her. McMeghan, all things considered. Has to keep rusting here. But to be fair, Pideous does not have a lot of free entry points into this Rotom. The best that Pideous can do is to keep knocking, trying to force more damage. And McMeghan makes a nice double there, meeting the Jirachee with Gliscor, but this Latias is going to be thrown in here. Dragon Pulse does pitiful damage. Hippowdon is brought in. Eats a knockoff, but it already lost Lefty, so not the biggest deal breaker ever. This guy's got a taunt here, preventing the roar. Taunts again. Wing attacks here, does a measly 6%. And they're both trying to wear each other down very slowly. We're on turn 144 and only 5 Pokemon have been lost. McMeghan's last has not even been revealed. And the Latias eats a crit there. Bit unfortunate, but we'll be able to recover safely. We got ourselves a real war of attrition. But yeah, McMeghan's best win condition right now is Gliscor by far. We don't know what his last is. I imagine it could be something like a Latias. That's something I could actually see, because having a secondary check to Infernape, and yeah, having a secondary check to Infernape could be pretty helpful on this kind of team. Because like Gliscor on its own isn't going to get the job done, especially because sometimes Infernape can run HP Ice. So these are things to consider when you're like trying to determine last in DPP, is like think about what the team might have issues against, like based on what is shown. Rotom is sent out here. Knocks off. The Jirachee is brought in. Skarm is sent out. And Pideous is forced to rest again because you don't really want to die to hazard damage. Sleep Talks here procs an Iron Head, so that's a nice way to buy yourself some extra PP. gets body slammed instead. So McMeghan will be able to heal up. Body slams again. The Fable is sent out. Knocks off here. Not a lot going on. Counter doing a mere 2%. Spikes is thrown out here. Jesus, I really need to speed this up. Yeah, we got ourselves a real grinder of a game too, and Pideous just trying to hold on, trying to look for any opening, looking for a crucial mistake from McMeghan perhaps. At this point, the PP count starts getting a little noticeable, and the last is revealed to be Quagsire here. So interesting, but Quagsire does somewhat help with the Gyarados issue that this team might have, but if it's like, actually no, not really. I can't say I'm a particularly huge fan of this team looking at it now. Quagsire is an interesting choice because like water types are a bit of a problem for this team. For example, like Specs Kingdra would be a huge problem. Specs Starmie could be really annoying. You know, like Specs Empoleon would be particularly bothersome, so I can kind of see why Quagsire's there, but even that's not really a sturdy option. And yeah, Pideous is going for Proke now, and Dragon Pulse does hefty amounts of damage. And the Quagsire is sent out, and that's gonna just die to Depulse, and McMeghan concedes, and Pideous will tie this up 1-1. So Pideous found their window to get Latias to set up for a Calm Mind endgame, and they got exactly what they were looking for. Game 3, this is the rubber match here. Gyarados lead, Azelf lead, so both players bring potentially offensive builds here, and that Waterfall does a lot. But the Tyranitar is going to be instantaneously brought out, and the Azelf will die to sand damage. So yeah, meta not uncommon on these builds for the purposes of that. Usually you need a Draco Meteor resist of some kind, and meta is a pretty good fit on these Azelf hyper offenses. McMeghan brings out his own Gyarados as his own answer. And the Gira showing no lefties, so but that looked like maybe band damage. And oh, T-Punch meta is shown. So yeah, that's usually nice for getting around Gyarados. This usually means you're dropping something like Explosion. Also lets you make some progress on Skarmory. Heatran Fire Blast here as the Gyarados has pivoted itself in to be a threat once more, and Pideous knows that the Gira is coming, so opts to take whatever damage they're able to get. Waterfall is sent in here, and both Gyaradoses are going to go down, so nothing unfortunate's going to happen today. And Pideous brings out the Infernape, which looks like a massive problem for McMeghan's team. Suicune is going to be able to eat up the overheat for now, but that's not really a good long-term answer, as it will still eat a lot of damage from something like CC. But this is a very bulky Suicune for the looks of it. Only took 14% from the U-turn. However, the Latias is brought in, and she's going to be a major problem. But Pideous trying to work around some pivots here. Anticipates a possible Scizor entry. Quick Attack is thrown out here. So this might be like CB Scizor, we don't know for sure. The Metagross is going to get a Meteor Mash off. Suicune shown lefties, but we don't know how fast it is. However, Meta will get a free Thunder Punch off. Power Punch does 32%, so that is no damage to laugh at. Calm Mind's up here, but ooh, I think the Suicune is probably done for. Only gets a rest, so got nothing there. And the Suicune will go down to sand damage. This is looking extremely tough for McMeghan. Luckily, the Metagross was not Lumberry. And the Breloom will get the sub up here. Meteor mashes again. McMeghan still has a chance to make something happen here. But McMeghan's gonna need some luck with the sleep turns. Pideous switches out to the Latias. And the Latias will get a free attack off to break the sub. Draco Meteor's here. McMeghan knows this and plays around it. And is going to get another substitute up, but doesn't have much of a chance to get anything more than that. Focus punches here. The Latias goes down. And Tyranitar is revealed to be the last here. And it's going to get his superpower off. However, this gives free entry to Scizor, and the Scizor is revealed to be slower, and Pideous reveals Fire Blast. Maybe he was trying to get a U-turn off, but did not get that. So, we have a crucial error on McMeghan's end, and that's going to cost him the game. And Pideous will walk away with this with a 2-1 series win. That game 2 was a real grind fest, but games 1 and 3 were pretty interesting games to look at. Especially considering McMeghan had a real chance to actually win it pretty late, but the fatal error that he seemingly made with his Scizor against the Tyranitar in the late game proved to be quite costly. Alas, it is what it is. That being said though, if you guys enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.